Martin Hibbert is an inspiration to so many people, and he was standing just metres away from the Manchester Arena bomber when the bomber triggered the blast, killing 22 people. Martin survived, but was left paralysed after suffering more than 20 shrapnel wounds.
He's an incredible guy, and he's absolutely determined, and he's making this happen. He's not just saying it, he's not just sort of talking the talk, he's really, really doing this. He's using what happened to his family as a force for good.
And Martin joins us now. Your life changed in a flash, in a moment, didn't it, at the Manchester Arena? And how you're rebuilding it and forging forward is extraordinary and inspirational. And it's a reminder, I think, actually, because you're campaigning so hard for disabled people and disabled access, that actually disability is something that can happen to anyone.
Correct.
At any point. And that is what makes your case, I think, so powerful, isn't it?
Of course, and, you know, kind of seeing that footage, it kind of brings it all back. You know, it's 6 years ago now, but, you know, when you see that footage, it almost feels like yesterday because you brought back into that every day, you know what I mean? Obviously, when I see my daughter, you know, you're constantly reminded of it. But in a way, it's kind of going through that. And, you know, I've been very vocal about it, you know, I didn't think I was going to come out of that arena that night.
And many didn't. No,
you know, and to tell the person that was looking after me, you know, I don't think I'm going to make it. Tell my wife I love her. You know, to accept that and to, you know, to accept that you're going to die is a hard thing to go through. And then to wake up a couple of weeks later in intensive care, you know, to be told that you're alive but you're paralysed, it's kind of like, well, I'll take that, because what I saw that night and what I still see of that night, you know, the fact that we're even here and I'm here today to talk to you is a miracle, and there's a reason why I'm here.
Did they tell you the moment you woke up
no.
that you'd been paralysed?
No, and well, I'd been through quite a rough journey with depression, and again, I've only recently learnt that, you know, Eve's injuries were that bad, they didn't think that they were going to make it either. And I've only just recently seen, because I'm doing some legal work, that, and I saw it in black and white, and it really made me stop in my tracks, that it was like, look, you know, not only do we have to get Martin ready to come to terms with being paralysed, but the fact that he's lost his daughter. So to see that in black and white and to know that they were having those meetings at the time is, you know, and again, like, the hairs are standing up on my neck, because that was, you know, and nobody's told me that, but it was obviously, and I know it was obviously, even for myself, it was a, you know, a very tough time, and it was very touch and go whether we would make it. But the coroner was ringing Eve's ward every day because they thought she was going to be number 23.
The coroner was calling?
Yeah.
My God.
Because that's how serious. But to see that in black and white, that, you know, not only do we need to get Martin ready to accept his injuries, we also need to tell him that he's lost his daughter. So they told me 4 weeks later, when I started to obviously come around and started to question things, and my wife couldn't hide it from me anymore.
You mean why I can't move my legs?
Yeah.
When did you reach this? It's almost a philosophical thing, where you decided, do you know what? I'm going to use this. I'm going to use the fact this has happened to me for good. When did that light bulb go on, or did it slowly flicker to life?
Yeah, it was the day I was told I wasn't going to walk again.
Really?
Yeah.
Same day?
Yeah.
Wow.
And I obviously I was on a lot of medication and things, but there's only various things that I remember. It's obviously being told that I wasn't going to walk again, and even says in my medical report, you know, we've never seen a patient like it. You know, he's come to terms with it very quickly, and I take it back to what happened that night. You know, I was losing a lot of blood. You know, I could see Eve was in a bad way, and I could feel, I knew I was dying. So to accept that, to come to terms with that, and to tell the security guard that was trying to keep me alive that, you know, tell my wife Gabby that I love her. You know what I mean? I'd accepted that I wasn't going to make it, and I, you know, that's what I take it back to, and you know, to be alive. And
there's only one way to go.
Grateful.
I've survived for a reason, you know.
And so you have that gift, as I know you've often talked about it, of being here to turn it for good. So what are you fighting for now?
So obviously being disabled, you know, obviously I was in a lovely hospital. I went to a spinal unit. I had people looking after me 24/7. And then you come home, you know, you don't press a button to get a nurse. I was on 30-odd tablets a day. I had to have a spreadsheet. You don't get a manual. My wife, Gabby, became, as you'll know, my wife, Gabby, became my carer overnight. She didn't get any training or a manual. I almost liken it to, and I know it's totally different, but I almost liken it to the first day you bring your son or daughter home and you come back and you look at each other and go, what do we do? Yeah, and it's almost
and
like
it's a mixture of sort of elation and you're standing over the crib, aren't you?
It's great because you're home and you're in your bed, you're lying next to your wife again. I mean, I was in hospital for 6 months, you know, so the fact that I was in a bed with my wife again was, you know, amazing. But it's that the nurses aren't there when you're in pain. You've got to take your own medication. You're in this new world of being disabled. And just again, probably as you know with Derek, you know, just the daily barriers. And me being a proud Boltonian from the north, I just won't accept it. You know, people saying, well, it's just life. Well, it's not. Just because I'm in a wheelchair, it shouldn't mean that I can't eat in nice restaurants or travel.
Well, this is what you discovered. You see, those of us who are able-bodied and perhaps don't have any kind of disabled factors in our lives in terms of a partner or a child or whatever, we kind of casually assume in 2023 that we've kind of mostly got wheelchair access sorted, where it's stations, restaurants, you mentioned that. And you've discovered it ain't like that at all. It's still incredibly difficult.
I mean, again, I won't go into it today, but even like last night, you know, coming down to London at 9 o'clock last night, I didn't have a hotel because the accessible room that the Hilton thought was, you know, they presumed was accessible, I couldn't get in.
Couldn't get in?
No. So at 9 o'clock last night...
I'm so sorry.
No, it's fine. We're going to have a different story on it, but we've had a thought about, you know, what this can do, but this happens every day.
And you found this as well with Derek, haven't you?
I found this as well, very briefly, because we're much more into your story of travelling back from the US after some treatment in the US. Heathrow was celebrating that they'd put in a new wheelchair width thing. You know when you go through and you put your passport scanner up? And before that, you couldn't get a wheelchair through. They'd put one in at vast expense. When they came to do it with Derek, who has a disability, has a wide range, doesn't it? And he hasn't got the cognition you've got or the strength that you've got in your upper body. We realised we couldn't get him into the country because he went forward, the door locked, but the disabled person has to free it, and you're not allowed, because of the border, to do it yourself. So he was stuck in no man's land, literally, between two borders for about an hour or so. And so that's even when conscious effort has been made to make things work. And I wonder if it's because that there aren't enough disabled people talking to the right people, which is what's great about today, because you're going to Westminster to talk directly.
It's the only rationale that I can put on it that, you know, architects that are designing buildings, you know, probably aren't disabled. You know, I know that there are disabled architects out there, you know, but I went to see Tom Pursglove in January, who's the disability minister, and I saw him face to face, and I said it, you know, in my Boltonian charm. I just said, look, I'm not here for a day out, you know, for you to tick a box to say that you've met somebody with, you know, a disability.
Good for you.
You know, I said, I want you to commit to some things.
And did he respond?
He did, you know what, and I've been very vocal about it. You know, we're very quick to talk about politicians when they don't do what they say, but I've got to say Tom Pursglove's been very good. You know, I've met him 3 or 4 times face to face. The commitments that I asked him to do, he's done. So he came over to the charity that I'm vice president for, the Spinal Injuries Association. He came over to there, spent about 3 or 4 hours, because what I said to him, I said, you need to get in the trenches, which is a common thing that I talk about. You know, it's no good just saying it. You've got to get in the trenches, and you've got to see it from where I'm sat. And he did. He spoke to people like me with spinal cord injuries. He spoke to members of staff to understand what they're dealing with every day.
Well, good luck later today.
Thank you.
You're a champion for the cause. You really are. Very briefly, because we're way over time, but I do want to ask you this. We saw Lucy Letby deciding not to appear in court and to hear her sentence and witness statements. The accomplice of the bomber who did this to you, he was convicted. He wouldn't come into court either and hear his life sentence. How did that make you feel?
Yeah, I mean, again, I've been very vocal about it. You know, I don't think people understand, unless you've been in that situation, the strength physically and mentally that it takes to go to court every day and to hear what they've planned and what they obviously carried out. A lot of people don't know, but I'd actually, because it was in the Old Bailey, I was going to actually come and live in London for 6 months so I could attend every day. They were going to make it accessible for me. And then I found out that actually, if he was going to appear, that he'd probably have a screen there, so I wouldn't be able to see him. And then when it actually came to the day of sentencing, I was going to actually come down and I wanted to look him in the eye to say, look, you know, you can take my legs, but I'm not defeated.
Good for you.
So the fact that when my police liaison said he's not going to be there, I didn't even think that was right.
No.
I said, well, he gets the choice. So no, I've put my, you know, I think, you know, like we've seen with Lucy Letby, Hasham, Ellie Edwards killer, you know, they shouldn't have the choice. They should stand in front of judge and jury. You know, I didn't have a choice, you know, that night on the 22nd of May. You know, I wanted to have that, you know, I wanted to look him in the eye and tell him I'm not defeated. But like I've said, you know, I'll never forgive the justice system for that, because he took that power back to his jail cell and he'll have that over me for the rest of his life. And I don't think they should have that power.
That's a very eloquent and, I would say, unassailable argument for changing the law.
For sure.
Get these people into the dock.
Correct.
Yeah.
Good to
luck
speak
later.
to you.
Thank you.
And your revenge, if you like, is to have such a successful life and to keep fighting, which is
And we're
great
going to
to
have a chat
speak
after the
to
show.
you.
We are,
Yeah.
yes.
OK, see you later.
Look forward to it.